A single laugh from a teacher nearly shattered a kid's confidence, until Truth strolled in wearing a NASA ID. You ever witness a moment so awkward it shifts the entire mood like a cold wind through a warm room? That's exactly what went down at Lincoln Ridge Elementary, in a third-grade classroom run by Ms. Worthington, nestled in Cedar Falls, North Carolina. It was Career Week, an annual highlight where kids sat crisscrossed on the carpet while parents stepped in to show off their jobs. Tool belts, lab coats, keyboards in tow. Some kids were bursting with pride. Others? Quite shy. But everyone loved it. It broke up the grind of long division and spelling bees. 8-year-old Malik Carter was practically glowing that morning. A little on the small side but sharp, quick with thoughts and full of spark. He had this earnest way of speaking, like he believed every word could build something. And today? His words felt big. His dad was coming in later. So when Mr. Turner asked the class to share what their parents did, Malik straightened like a soldier reporting for duty. "My dad," he said, chest lifted. "He works at NASA." The silence that followed wasn't awe. It was doubt. One kid scoffed. Another leaned over to whisper, as if. But the real blow came from the front of the room. Mr. Mike Turner, mid-40s, polo shirt snug around a soft belly, receding hairline holding on for dear life, let out a chuckle. Not loud, but sharp. The kind that slices. That tells a kid, "You're ridiculous." "NASA, ha," he said with a smirk like Malik just claimed his dad flew the Millennium Falcon. "That's a big dream, buddy. Maybe next time something a little more believable?" A few chuckles floated around. One girl parroted the words with a grin. "More believable," she whispered, like they'd all just shared a punchline at Malik's expense. Malik didn't argue. Didn't defend himself. He just stared at the carpet, his shoes gently tapping together like they were trying to speak for him. The hands that had once danced with excitement were now curled tightly in his lap, still. Mr. Turner moved on, unfazed. He didn't catch the way Malik's shoulders folded in, or how all that brightness vanished. But someone else did. Zoe and Lila, the two girls sitting nearby, leaned over. "I believe you," one of them whispered. Malik didn't respond, just gave the faintest nod, his eyes still locked on the floor. The rest of the morning slipped by in a haze. Mason's dad rolled in wearing fire gear. Ava's mom brought cupcakes and stories from her bakery. The class clapped. Parents smiled. Hugs were passed around like party favors. But Malik? He just sat there, shrinking into himself, wishing the earth would swallow him up. At lunch, his sandwich went untouched. He didn't laugh when the boys broke into goofy dances near the vending machines. Didn't dash for the swings like he always did. Something had cracked. It wasn't just the laughter. It wasn't even the disbelief. It was how effortless it had been, how a grown man, someone who should have lifted him up, had brushed him off like nothing. But here's what Mr. Turner didn't know. Malik wasn't making anything up. He wasn't pretending. His words weren't wild dreams. They were facts. His dad, a real-life aerospace engineer, spent the last 12 months building a communications relay for Mars. Wore a NASA badge every single day, and not just as a job but with pride. And Malik? He was proud too. But in that moment, none of it seemed to count. Because to one man standing at the front of the room, the idea that someone like him could have a father like that just didn't compute. But the day wasn't done. And someone was about to walk through that classroom door and flip everything upside down. 3 days before Career Week, Malik was out in the garage with his dad, surrounded by boxes of tangled wires and old gear. Well, helping might have been generous. He perched on an upside-down milk crate, sipping a Capri Sun, firing off a new question every couple of minutes. "Wait, how long does it take for the rover to send a message back to Earth?" he asked, eyes wide. Dr. Andre Carter didn't look up, still sorting through the chaos in his lap. "Depends on Mars orbit. Could be 5 minutes, could be 20. Malik blinked. "So it's like texting someone with the worst signal ever?" Andre chuckled. "Exactly. Outer space? Terrible reception." That's what Malik loved the most. Those simple, no-pressure moments where big ideas didn't feel scary. Where science became something he could laugh at. His dad never tried to sound impressive. He just made hard things make sense. Dr. Brooks wasn't loud. But in a crowd, people noticed him. He had that calm, quiet confidence. At home though, he was soft, present, always doing something with his hands, tapping on a keyboard, fixing a circuit, or gently resting them on Malik's shoulder. His job might have been full of numbers and wires and stress, but when it came to his son, he slowed everything down so an 8-year-old could feel brilliant. That night, Malik tiptoed into the office and took one of his dad's NASA folders to bed like it was gold. He laid it on the blanket with reverence. "Can I take this to school?" he asked. Andre glanced over. "I'm pretty sure top secret government stuff doesn't qualify for show and tell," he smiled. "Not even a tiny page." He sat beside him. "But you don't need papers to prove anything. Just use your voice. Tell them what I do. And tell them you're proud." Malik hesitated. "But what if they don't believe me?" Andre leaned back, one eyebrow raised. "Then that's on them, not you." "But what if they laugh?" Andre went quiet. He didn't sugarcoat things. He never did. He knew exactly how the world worked, especially for boys who looked like his son. "If they laugh," Andre said gently, "you stand tall anyway. The truth doesn't need claps. It just needs courage." Malik nodded slowly. He didn't totally understand, but something about the way his dad said it made it feel true. That night he poured his heart onto paper. He wrote words like orbit, rocket systems, and Mars relay in oversized bubble letters. Drew a superhero version of his dad with one hand holding Earth and the other, a glowing satellite. He was excited, thrilled, to tell his class. To finally let them see what he saw. That morning he practiced in front of the bathroom mirror, mimicking his dad's gestures and even cracking a joke about space having the worst Wi-Fi in the universe. But none of it mattered, not once Mr. Turner laughed. By lunch, Malik said nothing about the speech. The drawing? Torn in half before recess. Folded, stuffed deep into the bottom of his backpack like a secret too painful to keep close. Funny how fast joy can turn into shame. 1 second you feel invincible. The next, you're just watching the clock, praying the day ends quickly so no one looks at you too long. Andre didn't know any of this yet. He was across town, stuck in meetings, fine-tuning a slideshow for the big moment. He'd made it simple, fun, cartoon rockets, bright planets, a smiling Mars. But the last slide? That was the one he was proud of. A photo of him and Malik at the Jet Propulsion Lab, wearing identical NASA badges, arms around each other, beaming. But back at Lincoln Ridge Elementary, Malik wasn't smiling anymore. Because sometimes all it takes is one careless laugh from the wrong adult to make a child question everything they once believed. The hours crawled. After lunch, Mr. Turner pretended everything was normal, like the air in the room wasn't still thick with what he'd said. He moved through spelling drills and math equations like they were lifeboats. But every so often he peeked over at Malik. Malik never met his eyes. He wasn't sulking. He wasn't even upset in a way most kids show it. He just dimmed. Like someone had flipped the switch and walked away. Zoe noticed. A few other kids did too. But nobody said a word. Maybe they didn't know how. Maybe they were just kids, still learning when silence matters more than noise. At 1:30 the final hour arrived, time for the career day guests. Mr. Turner started rearranging desks, setting the whiteboard just right, calling names from his clipboard. Parents lined up quietly in the hallway, ready to be called in like guests on a talk show. Malik sat still, eyes flicking between the clock and the door. Ava's mom went first. She brought cupcakes and passed out sugar cookie business cards with little smiley ovens on them. Next came Diego's uncle. The room lit up when he passed around a tire pressure gauge like it was a golden ticket. The class clapped, asked questions, giggled at grease stains on his overalls. Malik didn't move. His hands were slick with sweat. His knees bounced beneath the desk. His mind spun in circles. Please don't forget. Please don't cancel. Please show up. Because if his dad walked in, with that NASA badge clipped to his belt, maybe, just maybe, Mr. Turner would finally get it. But buried underneath that hope was a quieter voice. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't reason. It just stings. What if he doesn't come? What if Mr. Turner was right? What if my dad isn't who I thought he was? Malik clenched his jaw and tried to shake it off, like he could knock those doubts loose. Meanwhile, Mr. Turner was back at the door, clipboard in hand, waving the next guest in with polished ease, smiling, guiding, telling harmless jokes as if the morning hadn't left a mark on anyone. But something had cracked in him. When he called on the other students, his eyes flicked toward Malik now and then. His jaw tightened like he was chewing over a thought too bitter to swallow. Maybe he finally realized the damage he'd done. Maybe seeing Malik's spirit dim was the wake-up call. But whatever guilt he felt, he buried it deep. No apology came, no moment of correction, just more fake smiles and forward motion. 15 minutes left. For names still on the list. Malik's eyes locked on the door now, checking every few seconds like a countdown was ticking inside him. He pictured the moment, that suit, that careful stride, the flash of silver on his chest. He saw it in his head like a scene from a film, only now he wasn't sure if the ending would deliver. Mr. Turner looked at his clipboard. Next up we have... He stopped. The door had already swung open. And there he stood. Dr. Andre Carter, poised in a crisp navy blazer, white button-down, dark slacks, and clipped to his chest, the unmistakable glint of a NASA ID. His salt and pepper hair was neat, his eyes calm as they scanned the room, and locked on Malik. Malik's chair scraped the floor as he shot upright. His mouth opened, stunned, caught between a smile and disbelief. Andre didn't grin. Not yet. He just nodded. Softly. Reassuringly. Steady as gravity. Good afternoon, he said, voice smooth but clear. I'm Dr. Brooks. I helped design spacecraft. And in that moment, everything paused, not in doubt, not in mockery, just silence heavy with realization. But not everyone in that classroom was ready for what just unfolded. Especially not the man frozen at the front, suddenly gripping a clipboard like it weighed 100 pounds. When Dr. Brooks stepped inside, there weren't gasps or cheers. Just silence, the kind that lands hard and stays heavy. He didn't bring toys or a slideshow or anything flashy. He didn't need to. His calm presence, that NASA badge catching the light, was louder than any introduction. He was living proof of a world they hadn't pictured him in. Especially not Mr. Turner. The teacher blinked like he was waking up from a fog. His mouth opened, but the words never found a landing. Meanwhile, Malik sat stunned, blinking fast like he was checking reality against the picture in his head. A part of him had started to think his dad wouldn't show. Not because he doubted his love, because when someone in charge makes you feel small, it twists the way you see everything. But Andre had been there the whole time. Standing right outside that door. Listening. He walked in like the room could take its time adjusting. No big entrance. Just presence. He glanced at Mr. Turner and offered a quiet, respectful nod, cool, confident, no heat behind it. Then he faced the class. So, he said casually, I hear we're talking careers today? A kid raised his hand. Do you fly the rockets? Andre laughed softly. Not exactly. I helped design the tech that lets rockets send messages back to Earth after they launch. Another student piped up. Like space phones? He smiled. Exactly. Phones for outer space, but imagine the worst service you've ever had. That cracked the room open. Even Malik's mouth twitched into a grin. Andre tapped the screen, pulling up a shot of the Mars relay system, satellites spinning in orbit. Another slide showed him seated at a control panel, wires and screens everywhere. What you're looking at, he said, is how we keep in touch with machines on other planets. We make sure they can call home. One by one, the kids leaned forward, drawn in like the classroom had turned into mission control. Everyone, except Mr. Turner. He stood off to the side, unusually silent. His gaze flicked from the photos on the screen to Andre, then over to Malik, who now sat straighter, taller, like something inside him had finally clicked back into place. Andre didn't address what happened earlier. He didn't need to. The truth was already standing in front of them. But just before he wrapped up, he paused, looked around the room, then back at the students. Oh, and before I go, he said evenly, I overheard someone say earlier that working at NASA sounded unrealistic. He let that word stretch just long enough to land. Then he turned his eyes to Malik. I guess it all depends on what you believe is possible. And for the first time all day Andre smiled. Malik's whole face lit up. The tension in his shoulders eased. His hands finally relaxed on his desk. He looked around and caught it, the change. No more eye rolls. No more smirks. Just wide eyes and quiet awe. Even Milo leaned over and whispered, "Told you." Mr. Turner cleared his throat. "Thank you, Dr. Brooks. That was enlightening." Andre nodded politely, then checked the clock. Time to get back. Mars doesn't send reminders. A ripple of laughter spread across the room. As he passed Mr. Turner on his way out, he paused. "Make sure your students always feel like their voices matter," he said quietly. "Especially the ones who dream past the ceiling." And then he left. But what he left behind wasn't silence. It was weight. It was the kind of truth that lingers and makes people shift in their chairs. Mr. Turner didn't move for a beat. Clipboard in one hand, the other awkward at his side, like it didn't belong anywhere anymore. He turned back toward the class, but the usual energy he commanded had faded. The room wasn't watching him anymore. They were looking at Malik. And Malik wasn't just a kid in the corner today. He looked calm, steady, like someone who had finally been seen, fully and without question. "Let's give a round of thanks to Dr. Brooks," Mr. Turner said, voice a touch thinner than usual. Zoe clapped first. Then a few others joined in. But the moment had already crowned its real hero. Mr. Turner tried to carry on like nothing had shifted, but the air in the room had changed. He glanced at his clipboard, introduced the next parent, but the energy was gone. His words floated flat like background noise no one cared about. Because no one was thinking about cupcakes or tire tools anymore. They just witnessed a man walk in and dismantle an entire bias. Quietly, powerfully, without needing to say it out loud. After the last parent finished, Mr. Turner told the class it was time to pack up. Zippers buzzed, chairs screeched against the floor, and the usual end-of-day shuffle kicked in. But Malik didn't move. He stayed rooted to his chair, calm, hands clasped neatly on the desk. Like he was waiting for something. Or maybe not waiting at all. As the last wave of kids poured into the hallway and voices echoed down the corridor, Mr. Turner made his way over. He stood beside Malik's desk, shifting from foot to foot like the floor beneath him wasn't steady. "Hey," he said, trying for lightness, but the weight was still there. "Your dad seems like a brilliant man." Malik looked up, slow and steady. "He is." Mr. Turner gave a small nod. "Yeah, that came through." He hesitated. "Listen, earlier I didn't handle that right." Malik didn't say anything. Just watched. Mr. Turner fidgeted with the edge of his sleeve. "Sometimes teachers mess up. We speak too soon. We don't always see the impact of our words until after they land." Malik's voice was quiet but clear. "But you laughed." That stopped Mr. Turner cold. His mouth pulled into a tight line. "I did," he said after a moment. "And I'm sorry. That wasn't okay. You deserved better than that." Still Malik didn't nod. Didn't offer him an easy out. Mr. Turner took a breath. "I hope I get the chance to earn back a little of your trust." Malik stood, swung his backpack over one shoulder and walked to the door. No anger. No performance. Just calm, steady steps. Like someone who already knew the truth and didn't need anyone else to validate it. Right before stepping out, Malik paused, glanced back and said quietly, "You didn't imagine it. That really is my dad." Then he turned and walked away. Mr. Turner remained rooted beside the desk, one hand resting on its edge, the other buried deep in his pocket. The laughter and footsteps in the hallway faded, leaving behind a strange hush. The classroom was empty, but the moment wasn't over. It hung there, heavy, sitting in the silence like truth that showed up too late. It wasn't just about being mistaken. It was about the damage a single doubt can do. The way one careless comment can make a kid question his worth, his family, even his dreams. And now Mr. Turner couldn't shake the memory of his own voice. "Maybe next time we aim for something more realistic." That wasn't guidance. That was a ceiling he tried to nail shut over a child's potential. And it broke. Some apologies don't come in speeches. And some lessons don't need applause. That evening, with the Arizona sky glowing in streaks of fire orange and deep pink, Malik sat at the kitchen table, spooning cereal for dinner, Not because there was nothing else, but because it felt right. Across the room, Andre leaned on the counter, nursing an old mug with "Space Nerd" faded across the front. Neither said much. Not silence out of tension, just a pause between thoughts. Then Malik spoke. "Did you hear him?" Andre looked up. "Your teacher?" Malik gave a slow nod. "When I told the class what you did, he laughed. Like it was funny." Andre didn't respond right away. He set the mug down and pulled up a chair. Sat across from his son, his voice even. "Yeah," he said finally. "I heard." Malik stared into his bowl. Why would someone do that? Andre sighed. Because some folks build their world like it's a box. And when something, or someone, doesn't fit inside, they treat it like it doesn't belong. It's not always cruelty. Sometimes it's just people not knowing any better. But either way, it's never your job to make yourself smaller to fit inside someone else's limits. Malik swirled his spoon in the bowl, eyes down. "I didn't feel smart anymore." Andre leaned closer, tone firm but gentle. "Don't let someone's disbelief rewrite what's true about you. You know who you are. You know who I am. That's enough." Malik gave a small nod. "And hey," Andre added, "you handled yourself today like a champ. You spoke your truth. You stood tall. That takes guts." A hint of a smile crossed Malik's face. The next day the atmosphere felt different. The same kids who had chuckled yesterday now gravitated toward him, pulling chairs closer, asking questions. One leaned in and whispered, "Has your dad ever been to space?" Another wanted to know if he could bring in a rocket part sometime. Malik didn't gloat, didn't show off. He answered calmly, then went about his day. At recess, Zoe walked alongside him. "They believe you now," she said. Malik shrugged. "They didn't need to." She grinned. "Still feels kinda good though." Meanwhile, back in the teacher's lounge, Mr. Turner sat by himself for a long while. Eventually, he scribbled something down and slipped a note into Malik's cubby. Nothing typed, nothing polished. Just handwriting on a crumpled piece of paper. Malik opened it after lunch. Read, "Malik, I was wrong. You should never have had to prove anything. Keep reaching for the stars. Mr. Turner." Malik didn't grin. Didn't reread it. Just folded it carefully, slid it into his backpack and zipped it shut. He hadn't needed an apology. But maybe someone else had needed to give it. Later that day, when the dismissal bell rang, Malik walked out steady and proud. Not because the others had changed their minds, but because one thing had never wavered. His dad had shown up. And he was an engineer. And above all else, he stood in his truth even when no one was willing to stand with him. Somewhere in that classroom, a grown man remembered something he shouldn't have forgotten. That kids dream bigger than most adults ever dare to. And when we downplay those dreams, we don't just shrink their imagination, we silence their voice. But Malik's? His voice didn't fade. Held firm. Stayed true. Because truth doesn't wait for permission. It just needs someone bold enough to speak it. So if you've ever been dismissed, doubted, or told to play smaller, remember this. Other people's ceilings don't have to be your walls. Keep showing up. Keep telling your story. And when the moment comes to believe in someone else, especially when the world doesn't, lean in. You might be the reason they don't give up. If this story made you pause, even for a second, share it. Like and subscribe for more interesting stories.